Today I'm going to make a phaser from Star Trek. For this build, I used EVA foam, craft foam, dilithium crystals. Now it is kind of dangerous to handle dilithium crystals. You're gonna lose some red shirts, but you know, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. Yeah, that's what they're there for.
Safety gear, scissors, razor pens, and a box cutter.
We're gonna do the TNG phaser carbine today. First I'm gonna make a template because some of these parts need to be identical. This will be available, linked in comments down below. So people get the impression that I'm more of a Star Wars guy, but that's just because there seems to be more props in Star Wars, whereas Star Trek is more story driven. Now being a prop making channel, you know, my content tends to lead more towards Star Wars. I mean, I guess where Star Trek really brings the thunder is in spaceship design. And don't get me wrong, I'd love to build spaceships, but it's kind of hard to fit them in my garage, especially because my car is somewhat territorial. I mean, I give Star Wars a hard time for continuity, but Star Trek is kinda... I mean, over one episode, sure, it's fine. They're great. But with sci-fi, you're trying to make something that should have a movie budget on a TV budget. So sooner or later, those props are getting reused. And if they get damaged, I guess we'll just paint over it. It's fine. It's battle damage. You know, you watch these episodes enough, you'll see some prop reuses. I see you, Crate from 4 Star Treks and a Firefly. At this point in the show, the phasers were really angular, which is kind of contrary to how they would turn out in the later series. But in season 1, the phasers were curved, I guess to kind of match the shape of the spaceship, and the common criticism was they looked like vacuum cleaners. So one of the many changes they made after season 1 was redesigning the phasers. And they may have gone overboard a bit, but I don't mind. I have a fondness for this design. So I'm using 1/2-inch thick EVA foam, which in my opinion is a little bit easier to cut, and it happens to come in the perfect shade of gray for Star Trek props. I cut the length of the body 3 times to get the correct width. I flipped the third one so that I could hide the textured side of the foam on the inside. I glued those together with hot glue, weighed them down with metal blocks. I swear that's a block, not a ruler. Then I chopped off the front half of the barrel. I used 4mm craft foam to go in between the slice. When I put these back together, it'll look like a heat sink. Lots of heat sinks in Star Trek. That's a good greebling note. Star Trek is heat sinks. Star Wars is vents, like radiators. After that, I smoothed it out even more on the belt sander. This is much easier to do when the barrel is separated from the chunkier back portion. Despite my best efforts, there was a little bit of variation when I cut out those pieces. So as I came across those discrepancies, I cleaned them up on my belt sander. Oh, you should wear a dust mask when you do this. Then did the same for the back portion. I cut out a section of the back for the power cell. I knew I was going to have to do this, so when I glued the 3 body pieces together, I tried to avoid getting any glue in this area. I chopped out a notch in the back where the power cell would go. I made the battery pack out of 4mm black craft foam. Next, for the grip, I drew the outline straight onto it with pencil, and then I retraced that with the razor pen, not slicing all the way into it, but just pressing down a little bit. After that, I took a metal, is that a ruler? Yeah, I took a metal ruler this time and traced so many lines. A bunch of parallel lines down the length of it. After that, I ran my heat blaster over the grip until the lines opened up a bit. Then I glued a black strip to the top. That's 2mm craft foam, by the way. And 4mm gray to the top of the back end of it. Then I painted the grip with watered down flat black brush paint. After that, I traced a handle grip, much the same way as I did the body, but I'm only using 2 layers of foam this time, because it's got to be thin enough to actually get a grip on it, to get your fingers around. I cut that out with a box cutter, and then glued them together. For the black grip pattern on the handles, that's kind of an annoying space to work in, so instead, I'm going to use conduit, which I sliced down to size, and then wedged in there. The engine conduit stays in there with tension, but to help it a bit, I used some scrap puzzle pieces to keep it in line. I refined the handle on my belt sander, just like I did for the barrel parts. This phaser has 2 identical handles in line with each other, so I repeated all those steps. For the back handle, I used thin 2mm foam for the back of the grip, and then glued it to the back of the handle. Because the handle sits slanted, it can't just be a rectangle, it's gotta be angled at the edges. I built up the gray panel because it's gonna have to be a sight. I made the sight itself out of more 4mm foam. I made a little hinge for it so that it could flip up using scrap foam and a paper clip for the hinge pin. I had to cut it down to size with my side cutters. Okay, now that that's done, I can move on to the emitter. I built that mostly out of 4mm foam, basically just stacking it. The box cutter is actually kind of overkill for 4mm, especially when working with pieces that are this small, so I was able to get away with scissors for a lot of it. I made a gray angled box. Oh, but before I closed up the top, this is a fun little way to add detail. For the control panel, rather than stacking foam on top of it to make the control panel, I'm going to make it inset by cutting a piece of black foam and placing it 4mm below the top of it. Then I'm going to cut a half, well, more like 2/5 of the gray piece beneath it out of gray foam and place that on top. And we have an inset panel. Makes it look just a little bit more refined. Now I can add the buttons. Okay, despite getting wider, it now has to taper back inward, so I made a smaller tapered box to go in front of that one, and then an even smaller tapered black box to go in front of that. That's going to be the muzzle. And a final one out of more 4mm black foam. Next, I add some more paneling to the top of the emitter using gray foam. Although these props change from episode to episode, I've seen ones where they're black, so you do you. Then I added the dilithium crystal, set it to a modulating frequency to take care of the Borg, and I was ready to go. And that's how to make a phaser. Warning, not for use against Armus. Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. Know this video is a little bit out of left field, but I'm trying to find ways to sneak around the algorithm, which cannot tell prop weapons from real weapons, and really has never been able to since the initial YouTube crackdown. And that's why I'm not afraid of AI. It just can't tell fact from fiction. Hey, you think Data can paint hands? See, that should have been the real test in Measure of a Man. Like, from now on, that should be the Turing test. Well, let me know what other props you think I can sneak by the algorithm in comments down below. Oh, and if you like this video, maybe head on over to the Patreon page and join these wonderful people who make this video possible.
Thanks again, happy crafting, see you later.